Welcome back. You with the full view. Our special discussion tonight between 6 and 7, all the way for another half an hour, is the launch of the Democratic Alliance's election manifesto. To discuss it with me, Ferial Haffajee and Ralph Mathekga. One of the big issues, of course, is around governance and the delivery of services. DA leader Mmusi Maimane gave this example today of pit latrines and the problems that people have using them.
Today, 25 years into our democracy, our children are still dying in pit latrines. What kind of South Africa do we have when our children die in pit latrines? That is an injustice in our nation. We never thought our liberators would one day take their guns against our own people.
Ralph, I mean, pit latrines is a classic governance problem in South Africa. There's been promise after promise for many years to eradicate pit latrines, and yet just at school there are thousands of children who, I mean, literally risk their lives relieving themselves every day.
I mean, Stephen, this is a human rights issue. I mean, it is beyond just a catastrophe, pit latrines and how it affects people. I mean, in rural schools, it's quite sad, Stephen. Some of us, we matriculated in those schools that even when we go today, minor improvement in some of them, but the situation is still quite sad. So I think here he's talking to the people, and these are things that really matter as well. I mean, you know, when it comes to delivery, Stephen, actually when it comes to things such as cleaning the road, sealing potholes and all these things, you have to give it to the DA. They do get it right where they govern. I don't know whether the question is conveying their message to say, trust us at a national level, or maybe allow us to appoint a foreign minister for you or anything. I just don't know how they miss it, because clearly, even when you look at the audits, you go across the country, you're going to find out that if there is any political party that performs better than many when it comes to those things, when it comes to the technicalities of delivering, the engineering of it, the DA, they do a great job.
Ferial, I was struck when you go through the 83 pages of the DA manifesto. I mean, it's very clever election stuff. They will make a promise and then they'll have a section on where we govern. Yes. So, you know, in the Western Cape or Tshwane or Joburg. Yes. I mean, are you convinced by the examples they give?
I mean, this is a DA strategy at every election, and they can usually show in chapter and verse by numbers that the job numbers are better, that they have better investment rating status. So, yes, they are good. Obviously, I have a very close example. I live in two DA governed wards. The one is brilliant, the other one has been an example of near total state failure, and what that's taught me is that it's probably checkered, and that the DA, if it gets into more positions of governance, will also have a hard time. I think, Ralph, if we look at Tshwane, there have been very many problems with the Glad Africa contract. If we look at the fleet management contract in the city of Johannesburg, many questions raised about that. So again, I think the whole area of procurement and corruption, it hits you when you're in government. It becomes something you need to deal with. Today, Mmusi Maimane promising, yes, we know we don't do everything perfectly, we're going to get it right.
I mean, Ralph, what this boils down to in a way, I mean, for example, the DA says it would reduce the number of government ministries by more than half to just 15. I mean, that's a radical shift. It would be a real change in governance. There'll be questions about whether that's the right number. I mean, do you think a promise like that is something you can just make and throw into the ether?
Well, Stephen, I've not seen people reducing government in the last 70 years of studying political science, maybe even lecturing it. There are very few countries I can count where government is actually being reduced. The funny part is that sometimes government will hire even more additional number to help them find out how many they actually want to hire. But one thing that is very interesting about this, Ferial, is that even the EFF, which is on the left side, believes that government has to be cut, has to be chopped. It is very interesting. It appears that I don't know whether I should say it's lack of creativity, or maybe there is a consensus around this in South Africa where everyone is headed in that direction. President Ramaphosa as well, the ANC as well. So this is just an issue as to who's going to do it, who's going to do it faster, and where they are going to start. I've never seen it happening though. It goes into the elections, no doubt about it, but I've not seen it really happening. It can become a headache. But I don't know your experience where you have seen it, maybe.
I've never seen a government get smaller, and I'm looking forward to seeing how, for example, President Ramaphosa is going to do it. The DA also has to dole out patronage wherever it governs.
Well, I want to come to that, because this election, everyone says, will be the most contested election since 1994. It might not be true, maybe.
Yes.
But then there's something else that I think might be a shift, which is that previous elections have often just been about the ANC's track record of government, because it governed in so many places, or almost everywhere. Now, there's actually a track record of governance for the DA, not just in the Western Cape, but the city of Cape Town, Tshwane, Joburg, Nelson Mandela Bay, other places. There's also sort of a track record in governance of the EFF, because it's been in coalition. Do you think that changes the election actually quite substantially? It gives the ANC, rightly or wrongly, some mud to throw back.
I must say, watching the DA this time around and looking through its manifesto and watching the entirety of its campaign, you do it looking at it through its lens of government. How has it done in the Western Cape? How has it done in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, and in Nelson Mandela Bay? Is it good at holding together coalitions? Probably coalition governments are going to become a whole new area for us to think about and assess in the years ahead.
Okay. Yes, Rob,
maybe not.
I wanted to come to this thing of owning something, of being held accountable to something. Of course, the NC has got the many years, 25, 24 years of governance, the DA as well. But there is a party that just avoid to be in charge of anything as well. That is the EFF.
Yes.
You know, they will walk away from that. But I do think as well that that's how you learn. The DA, I mean, I speak in relative terms here, that compared to other parties in some municipalities, hey, they seem to be doing a little bit better. But one wonders, with more exposure, as you are saying, whether if you really expose them more to government, even at national level, what are you likely going to see? Is this lethargy that we see, is it a South African crisis? Got nothing to do with the party?
But then you
political culture.
Then you're suggesting that corruption is a South African way of life. I mean, that would have to be, I mean, how far would you go and say
that? Would just break my heart.
Well, it can't be true.
Well, it can be a phase in political development, Stephen.
Yes.
And a phase is a phase that just affects just about everyone at a different level. Political parties, they get affected at a different level. I'm not saying by any means that it's a way of life in South Africa. But you have to be concerned when exposure to power just mean that. Sure. And again, the concern will be for the DA. If the DA was very, very serious also when it comes to the reputation of corruption, did they ever explain the coalition that they've entered into? What is the strategic interest? What are the shared goals and so forth? So that leaves only the presumption that, oh, maybe sometimes you maintain them through patronage within those cities and so forth.
It feels that way.
Well, let's focus a bit more on corruption. I mean, the DA leader, Musi Maimane, had a strong message about that today.
I'm going to introduce an anti-corruption unit staffed by both specialist prosecutors and investigators. Tenders will no longer be issued behind back doors. They must be issued in front of our people. Fellow South Africans, I will have zero tolerance for corruption. This is the only way we build our country.
That is Musi Maimane speaking today. I mean, obviously, you know, corruption, opposition parties always say they're better. One of the things that they want to bring in is a 15-year jail sentence for someone who's convicted for taking more than 10,000 rands worth of government money through corruption. I mean, is that just talking tough, Ralph? Isn't that what opposition parties always do? We would do this, bring back the death penalty, you know.
It's the whole thing of the draconian law, thinking that if you bring death penalty, you're going to drive down crime, you know. The thing is, it's your internal systems, but it is also about the political system. Can one believe that there will be a political party in South Africa that will be completely clean of corruption from what we have seen so far? I think the difference is about how better these parties can manage corruption. Others will manage it better, maybe, and others will do less. But certainly, it's quite a problem. Talking tough, they can talk tough, Stephen. I mean, I think it's about those internal systems. It's about the logic of how the system works. I mean, we got where we got to also because within our society as well, people who are alleged to be corrupt can walk around, can activate political processes within their own political parties and defend themselves that manner. If the DA says that they will not bring that, they will not allow that culture, maybe that will make a difference. But to just talk about draconian laws and so forth, I don't think that will help much.
It was interesting to me that of quite a long speech, at least a third of it was anti-corruption, which suggests that I think people are tired of corruption. Even for the ANC, it's coming up as the biggest issue. And he made many key promises. Because account collapse, that one certainly, the jail sentence got one of the biggest rounds of applause.
Let's move on. Let's look at social cohesion to an extent, and there's a lot to talk about with social cohesion. And Musi Maimane saying today that the DA would be the party of social cohesion, that it would unite South Africans when other people and other parties try to divide them. This